His first ever female senator is sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear?
Senator Chuck Grassley reading the oath to interim Senator Darlene Graham on Capitol Hill. She takes over the seat of her late brother, Lindsey Graham, who died last weekend at the age of 71. President Trump has backtracked on plans to charge ships to use the Strait of Hormuz. Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House.
The president explained why he scrapped plans for the U.S. to charge a 20% fee to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. He said he doesn't fully agree with the concept of any country charging a fee for freedom of navigation.
The president says Middle Eastern countries would instead invest in the U.S. in exchange for use of the strait. America is listening to Fox News.
Marijuana, pot, weed, and Mary Jane. Don't trade your time for fun because it may injure your brain. Be smart. Don't start. Waste your potential. Stay in the race. Keep out of the haze. Stay THC smart.
Stay THC smart and don't start. Brought to you by Gandhi'sAmbassadors.org.
When a child is struggling with their mental health, the adults around them can make all the difference. Parents, teachers, coaches, anyone who shows up in a child's life. Because in those tough moments, kids are looking to the grown-ups around them for support.
If you're at school having a bad day, you just don't want to do anything.
I just get these thoughts like, do better. All my little emotions in my head is just running crazy. I don't know what to do.
As a teacher or coach, do you ever feel overwhelmed?
He's just in tears in the huddle. I was like, what's wrong? And he's just like, I'm just so frustrated. And I didn't know what to do.
None of my undergraduate studies talked about mental health.
Teachers need tons of help.
That's why the Kids Mental Health Foundation provides free expert-developed tools and resources to help adults support the kids they care about.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Because when adults feel supported, kids do too. Kids Mental Health starts with us. Find free resources at kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org.
America 250 is a great time to reflect on our country's past, present, and insane savings. BTRN's InsaneRadioDeals.com is celebrating 250 years of America with 25.0% off of everything. This includes savings on great local food and drink options like Charlie's, Ballad Brewing, Downtown Cairo, Yamada Japanese Barbecue, The Yard on 5th Street, and many more. The InsaneRadioDeals.com America 250 sale. 25.0% off of our entire inventory. Now until August 1st, you will not want to miss it.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
So we made it not to the ACC kickoff just yet as we welcome you into the Fast Lane here on the VTRN Sports app and VTRN Sports Lynchburg 93.3 FM. We made it to one of the many NASCAR buildings in North Carolina where we are broadcasting today's edition of the Fast Lane. More on that in just a little bit. We'll have that in the back half of the show today. But just as we went on the air, it went final. 2-0. Spain knocking off France in what many would consider to be an upset. They punched their ticket to take on either England or Argentina in the World Cup final. England-Argentina tomorrow at 3 o'clock. World Cup final on Sunday afternoon. Now it is time for JJ to start answering questions. This is not the Fast Five at 5-ish. JJ, would you consider this a major upset or a mild upset?
I would say a mild upset. I would say a mild upset, Ed. I mean, Spain was ranked third in the world, so it's not like they're a slouch at all. And in the Euro finals in 2024, they did meet in the semifinals, and Spain actually ended up winning that game 5-4. So Spain has kind of proven to have France's number thus far. And I mean, now they're going to have a chance to play to win their second ever World Cup, their first since 2010.
So my question, again, all this comes through from my eyes, as JJ knows, and as you might know, through the prism of more of a casual I'm a diehard NASCAR fan, which is where we are today at the one of the many NASCAR headquarters buildings. But as a casual soccer fan, my impressions were France is the flashier team, but Spain seemed like the type of team that had more of a lockdown defense. And when they could get an early goal like they did on the penalty kick about 20 minutes into the match today, it changes the entire complexion, because at that point, they just take you out of your comfort zone, and it almost is more of a boa constrictor-like effect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, France, you could say, has the more talented, the more technical players. I think the players who are better on the ball. But what I'm seeing from the Spain team, who's only conceded one goal the whole tournament still, and that was to Belgium in their last game, they have so many guys who are so much more willing to put in the work, run hard, chase down every loose ball. They just look like they want to win. They want to win so much more. They're playing with heart. They're playing with determination. They're playing for each other. And I just think that's something that France might have been lacking a bit. They had the talent. They had the high-end talent, the Mbappe, the Olise, guys who are worth hundreds of millions of euros in the transfer market. But Spain worked better as a team. They had a couple of late goals throughout their knockout run from Mikel Merino, and they've made it to the final. And I can't say I'm super surprised. I did think France was going to win today. But like we said, Spain's the better team. France probably has the better players.
So the next question, Spain is the better team, France has the better players. Are these reasonable and apt comparisons that I'm going to throw out there? You're an NBA guy, you're a college football guy, so these ones seem like they might make some sense. But back in the day, the Spurs would win against the Heat or the Lakers. The Spurs were never the flashier team, but when Popovich had them at their apex, they clearly had more than enough high-end talent. Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, Kawhi Leonard. It wasn't the flashy nature of a Shaq and Kobe of the Lakers or of a LeBron and Dwayne Wade of the Heat. But when the Spurs were clicking, they were the team that may not have gathered the sex appeal, if you will, pardon the expression, but ride with us for a second. But they had everything you needed to disrupt that and make a flashy team play ugly, which is not what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good comparison, Ed. Spain, you could say, is kind of the Spurs of international soccer, international football. Their main kind of calling card is the tiki-taka playing style, which is the ball keeps moving one-touch passes from here to there. That's kind of like those old Spurs offenses. The ball would fly around the court. Everyone would score. You'd get contributions from everyone. But then you still have your star player like Tim Duncan and Lamine Yamal. So, I mean, I say France has the better team, the better talent as a whole, but Spain still has a lot of very, very good players who are playing at the best clubs in the world in Champions League fixtures every time. So I do think the Spurs is a great comparison. The only thing that concerns me a little bit about Spain is Lamine Yamal, the 19-year-old, just turned 19 today, actually, his birthday. He still has yet to have a goal or assist in a major fixture. Going back to the club season with his time at Barcelona, when they're playing big clubs, he has yet to show up with a goal or an assist. Now he has a chance to do it in the World Cup final, and if you can do it then, no one's going to be asking questions anymore of him.
So this brings in another comparison. You mentioned Lamine Yamal, who is a key performer for Spain, and not really doing a lot right now. Again, local flashback coming up in the fast lane. When Virginia won their national championship, DeAndre Hunter was largely quiet through the majority of the tournament. But when he needed to step up against Texas Tech in the championship game against Jarrett Culver, who was also a lottery pick that year, people forget Hunter's had a pretty good NBA career. Culver is not. But when he needed to step up, he clearly blossomed and rose to the occasion and showed why he was the most talented player in that situation. Do you expect Lamine Yamal to channel his DeAndre Hunter on Sunday and be that elite player for Spain, or are you worried that we haven't seen a lot out of him because he is so young relative to a lot of other high-end players, particularly whether it's Jude Bellingham of England or obviously Messi of Argentina, among others for both those clubs, that this might continue to be a trend for him and should worry Spain?
Yeah, it's a little concerning moving forward because obviously you want the best players in the world to show up at the most important time. Lamine Yamal, he has proven time and time again he's very good. In the semifinals we mentioned against France last year, I want to say he had a brace and scored one of the better goals we've seen in recent history, a curling shot off his left foot from the top of the box. So he has done it before. It's just been years since he's come through in a big moment. I think his talent is too much to deny, whether they play Argentina or England. I would hope and expect from the Spanish perspective that he does come through in the World Cup final. And like we said, if there's a time to test, it is the World Cup final. You could argue the biggest sports game, just period, there is out there. So it's going to be a real test for a young player. But you could say, kind of like we talked about Wembanyama with this year, you could say, oh, he's going to be back. But you really can't guarantee that. You got to have to capitalize on your opportunities when you have them. And just a little tidbit coming in, breaking news. Zinedine Zidane is now officially the manager of France, as Didier Deschamps has retired from the national team after a very long, successful career. So we already have a change in a regime change in France, the national team.
So you bring that up. I could not begin to tell you what that means for Team France, and because they lost to Spain 2-0 today, from an international competition standpoint, casual people like me don't really have to consider that for at least 2 years with the Euros and probably 4 years with the next rendition of the World Cup. But just you brought it up. I mean, we're about 10 minutes into less than 10 minutes into Spain defeating France 2-0 today to book their spot against the winner of tomorrow's England-Argentina match in Sunday's World Cup final. And off the loss of France, they have a manager change. I would imagine because of this, it seems like this was the type of thing that was in the works for a while, and they were just going to announce whenever the tournament wrapped up for France, whether that was today or Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it had been established, that this was going to be Deschamps' last World Cup. And he's actually managed more World Cup matches than anyone else in history. This was his 26th match today. So he took charge of France in 2012, made 2 finals, won 1. I feel like no one's mad at his tenure. He ended with 120 wins, 35 draws, and 35 losses. Now they're able to turn the page to Zinedine Zidane, obviously one of the best French soccer players of all time, a man who's had history managing Real Madrid. He's done it at a high level before. I think this is about as good of a transfer of power as you're going to get in international soccer. So while it hurts losing Didier Deschamps, a guy you could argue is maybe the best World Cup manager of all time in terms of resume, but you're moving to Zidane. So I think France, despite losing the World Cup semifinal, the future is still very bright. Mbappe is only 27 years old. He has 20 career World Cup goals. Wasn't quite able to catch Messi's 21 this World Cup for the record, but France isn't going anywhere. They're going to be back. And yeah, I think you got to be happy if you're a French national team.
By the way, your ability to pronounce those names, JJ, was not quite Doc Emmerich playoff hockey level. That to me is still the gold standard, how he could eloquently say all those Czech and French and Russian names that I could never begin to pronounce normally, much less with, a couple million people paying attention to me. But we give you a little bit of a round of applause. How much practice did you have to put into that, by the way?
Not a lot of practice, more a lot of playing FIFA, I would say. Hearing the commentators say the names, that's always a good way to gather more information about it. I also took a few years of French, so it being the French national team certainly helps. There's still plenty of names out there that trip me up, Ed.
That still very impressive from JJ. Anyway, 2-0, Spain knocks off France today. Before we get to the Fast 5 at 5-ish, we're going to outline today, by the way, quickly, because we did not post it to Fastlane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, because, again, we're at the NASCAR, one of the NASCAR buildings on our way to Charlotte for the ACC kickoff. We will have coverage starting tomorrow, including some live exclusives that will drop on Facebook and YouTube, Fastlane, Ed Lane, and VTRN Sports on those social media platforms. And then we'll play some of that back and share some of that with you on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday's edition of the Fastlane. But if you want it live and on the money when it happens, subscribe to our channels or the podcast feed, because we'll archive all of that content there. But, we're at one of the NASCAR buildings today. That's why we didn't post the lineup. John Manson, Liberty Flames reporter, a Sea of Red, around 5:25 today here in the Fast Lane. And then we'll have the Fast 5 at 5-ish after that, as well as some fan feedback that we'll get to. So we'll get kind of teed up for both of those on the back half of this. But, the other question that just kind of jumps out, and, two of them. One has been for you, JJ. If you're the TV executives, would you rather have France been in the final? Because you mentioned what Lamine Yamal has for Spain, but I kind of feel like Dembele and Mbappe are a little more well-known superstars for France, not to mention in America. I think people love or hate France, and they generate more of an illicit reaction from people than does Spain. Would you rather have had that, or are we kind of nitpicking here over what's still going to be a pretty well-watched final, because it'll either have England going for their first or Messi in Argentina that's a fan favorite?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of nitpicking there. I mean, after all, we are talking about the World Cup final. No matter who's playing, where it is, what time of day it is, it's going to have well over 1 billion viewers tuning in.
Worldwide.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Spain, with Lamine Yamal, he's still already on the stage of a global superstar. He hasn't been around as long as Mbappe or Dembele, like you mentioned. Obviously, Dembele, the reigning Ballon d'Or winner. But Spain's still a very, very good team. They have lots of superstar talents, lots of guys who play for the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid. So they're guys you see on the national stage. And you mentioned on the other side, whether it's England or Argentina, you're going to have England playing in their first World Cup final in 60 years if they make it. If it's Argentina, you're going to have the greatest player of all time. So the ratings are going to be there. It's going to be dramatic, and I cannot wait for Sunday afternoon. Whether it's Argentina or England, it is going to be an unbelievable game. It might be close, might be low scoring now that Spain's in it, but I'm so excited, Ed.
Do you have a preferred matchup that you'd like to see?
Honestly, I could go either way. England, I would like to see them succeed just because I feel like their fans want it so bad and they always come up just a little bit short. But I'm a big Messi guy. I'd love to see a chance for him to go back to back. And another interesting narrative is you have to keep in mind Messi played in Spain for like 15-ish years for FC Barcelona. So there's going to be a lot of mixed bag for the fans of Barcelona, whether they want Argentina or Spain. I'm sure most of them lean Spain, but for a Messi fan, it might be a tough call.
So, you're not in the camp of the type of person that wants England to not get there or not win it just because you like to see them suffer. Are you that sadistic type of sports fan or sports media person, or would you be fine if they won and excited for them if they actually not just won tomorrow, but also won on Sunday?
I'm only that way about very particular franchises. And none of them really in international soccer. Something with international soccer, especially England, it just means so much to the country. They've been singing "Football's Coming Home" for 30 years now. That's when that song was made. They've been hoping it's coming home. I would actually be really thrilled for England. I like Harry Kane a lot. He's having one of the most unbelievable goal scoring seasons of all time, actually the second most ever, trailing only Messi. And Jude Bellingham's played an unbelievable tournament. So this team deserves to win it. I wouldn't be mad at all if they won it. They've got to get over the hurdle of playing the defending world champions who just so happen to have the greatest player of all time.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
No. I mean, all right. We're not at the point where we're going to ask you to predict the match. That's going to be in the Fast Five at 5-ish a little later so we can get your actual breakdown of this. But I have to interrupt and ask. You said none of the international type teams fit that description of fan bases you want to see continue to endure a level of misery. You are a noted Celtics fan, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am, Ed.
All right. You're a Boston sports fan, except in the NFL, ironically. For some reason, you chose to endure 25 years of a prior regime in our nation's capital. We're not going to say names so that we don't potentially get sued by people who may or may not be very offended by comments that might be critical of them, even though they're no longer having controlling stakes in that particular sports organization. We're wink, wink, nudge, nudging our way around the legalities of a very petulant former person that ran your particular organization. We won't say which person so that we can leave it up to interpretation. Do I have that part correct?
Yes, you'd be completely correct about that, Ed.
Okay, so now to the next point. Are you a Virginia Tech fan now that you have attended Virginia Tech?
Yes, of course. Go Hokies. Go Hokies.
Okay. Who are the fan bases then that you would like to see? The rare exception where normally nice, wonderful, just pleasant JJ Hendrickson turns into a sour version of himself and wants to see them continue to have to suffer.
Now, Ed, you're not going to like some of my answers here, but I pretty much have one team per sport that I just despise.
Fire away. Go ahead.
We'll start with football, an organization. I know a lot of Commanders fans really, really hate the Cowboys, but the Eagles is who really grinds my gears.
Oh, why?
Infuriates me. We had they will award the Eagles a score debacle in the NFC Championship a couple of years ago. The Eagles make me irate, to be honest, Ed.
All right.
Pause. Either. Go ahead.
I am pausing you right there. Wasn't it the Washington Commanders that instigated that because Frankie Louvu really is not a very good run? He's not a bad pass rusher, but he's not a great run defender, and that was his only run defense option.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that, Ed. Frankie Louvu was jumping off sides an absurd amount, nothing like we've ever seen before. But in my entire life, I've watched hundreds, thousands of hours of football. I have never heard the referee say something like, "We will award the Eagles a score." And obviously for me, I had never seen the Commanders win a playoff game prior to that playoff run. So that's the biggest game of my life. And the referees pulled that debacle. It wasn't anything the Eagles did. It just so happened they were playing the Eagles, and that's a moment I'm never, ever going to forget.
I'm amazed that that's what grinds your gears, not like the very honest reality. And I can say this as an Eagles fan. A lot of Eagles fans are not people that you want to hang out with. Like, they are very miserable people to be around. I wouldn't put myself in that category. I'm great. Look, one was fantastic. Two, I feel spoiled with championships as an Eagles fan, but a lot of them are very miserable people, fueled by a crotchety old group of people in Philadelphia sports talk radio. I should not bag on people in our own profession, JJ, but they're in New York and Boston and even Chicago kind of have some of this as well. But I feel like in Philly, it's particularly bad. So I get it. I'm just surprised that the tush-push situation that Frankie Louvu tried to stop. First of all, they should have just ejected Frankie Louvu. Like, that's such a Frankie Louvu antic, not to mention his concussion hit on Jalen Hurts earlier in the season. Just get rid of Frankie Louvu and get the game on with. That's what the real solution should have been.
Yeah, the Eagles hate had definitely been established by then, mostly due to the fans, but that was what really took it into another stratosphere for me. I'll never forget that game. That was maybe the most upset I have ever been at a football game. And they were playing the Eagles, so that's something I'll never forget. Moving on to basketball, it's also the same Philadelphia franchise. Now have Jaylen Brown, a man I saw play for the Celtics for a decade, win a Finals MVP there. I cannot stand the Philadelphia 76ers.
If you wanted to sit there and say you can't stand the fact that they get all this hype, despite having, traded essentially Markelle Fultz, they traded Jason Tatum for Markelle Fultz, and yet they still act like they're worthy. I get it. If you want to criticize the fact that they act like Joel Embiid should somehow be on the level of Jason Tatum or any elite NBA player and that being ridiculous, I don't fault you for it because Joel Embiid is not on that level. I know he really cries when he doesn't really do enough conditioning to make sure he can actually carry the team as opposed to continually succumb to avoidable injuries. So if you wanted to go down that road, I'd understand it, but it grips at my stomach that the other, again, right thought process, but wrong reason.
Yeah, also you mentioned Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is one of my least favorite players in the NBA to watch play the game of basketball.
Me too.
Just because of the incessant pump fakes, foul baiting, falling down. He is way too big of a man to be getting knocked down the way he does. It is so incredibly aggravating. Fortunately, the Celtics had always had the Sixers number until, as I'm sure you're aware, the playoff run this year, Celtics go up 3-1 and couldn't win any of the last three games. Terrible way to go out. Terrible way for Jaylen Brown's tenure to end. And then you send him to Philadelphia. Just inexplicable as a whole for me.
Hey, all those are largely valid reasons. But the irony is a lot of your complaints about the Sixers and Joel Embiid, Philly fans feel the same way. So it's not like you're sitting there, you're kind of preaching to the choir. All right, you've already established you do not like the Eagles and you do not like the Sixers. Who else and we'll go the other two major sports, if you want to include hockey, you can. Maybe soccer if you're in that category, and certainly in college sports. Who all is on it grinds JJ's gears, their fans or that organization?
So for baseball, I'm a Red Sox fan. I think you know who I'm going to say here, Ed.
Trey, do you want to hold off for a week till Trey leaves the building on this one?
I'll let it fly now. He just left the studio on his way out, so I'm free to say it. The New York Yankees, I've always hated them just about as much as any organization in sports. Going back, even thinking about when Alex Rodriguez was knocking the ball out of dudes' gloves and acting like he was running normally. The Yankees have always infuriated me. Moving to soccer, like I said, internationally, there's not a lot of teams that I really hate. But my club is Manchester United. I don't know how familiar you are with soccer rivalries, but Manchester United and Liverpool have one of the most fiery, intense rivalries you'll see in any sports. So Liverpool, I absolutely cannot stand. And then finally, college sports. As a Virginia Tech fan, my sister is actually getting her PhD right there right now. I cannot stand UVA, even though historically they haven't caused the Hokies much trouble.
Well, it's kind of understandable that Tech and UVA would have their issues. It's ironic because I bumped into other people and some Tech fans. I don't know if any of them detest Miami the same way. I think it's more of a healthy respect for each other. At least a lot of the Miami fans have kind of expressed that level of sentiment. But I know there are a lot of Tech fans that really can't stand North Carolina either because there were some recruiting battles dating back to the Larry Fedora era with Fuente and Fedora. Certainly Carolina has not done much to endear themselves to people the last year and change with Belichick and Lombardi down there and the way things seem to be going, how they talk versus how they perform, bark like a pit bull, bite like a chihuahua type thing. And I think it's probably a good assessment of Carolina in some people's eyes. But I've heard that, but Virginia is the clear non-standing rival of Virginia Tech, or the clear long-standing rival of Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I've actually I don't think I've heard many Virginia Tech fans say they don't like UNC. So that's interesting to say. Although I do know my stepdad, shout out Gary, and a Virginia Tech alumni, does hate Miami with a passion. So there are Virginia Tech fans out there who hate Miami a bunch, but I've actually never heard UNC, Ed.
I've heard that from some, and I don't know if it's not as deep-seated because it's only been an ACC partnership for a couple of decades. This is not a multi-generational type rivalry the way the other two are. I know a lot of the old Virginia Tech fans can't stand VMI, but I mean clearly they've gone in such a divergent path that Tech might put a 70 burger on VMI in the first game of the year this year that you'll be able to hear, by the way, on the VTRN Sports app when college football season gets going.
Yeah, very excited for that game. Very excited for the season. I mean, I don't think it can go much worse than it did last year. Obviously, James Franklin at the helm. What is not to be excited about with Virginia Tech football? I do think it's important for people to temper their expectations a little bit. We talked about this a bit with Nick Brown on covering the Commonwealth yesterday. I think about 8 wins is what they should shoot for, Virginia Tech. Being more than that, any more than that would be a little optimistic, and I think it's important not to get your hopes up too high so they won't be crushed too hard.
I think that's probably fairly reasonable. The schedule doesn't do well. If you really honestly look at the defense, I took the over 7.5. I think Virginia Tech can get to 8. I think they could get lower. They could finish with 7 or 8, but I trust James Franklin enough that they could get to 8. Maybe 9 if things break really well for Virginia Tech. Clemson becomes a train wreck, so the game on the road isn't as difficult as possible. Cal takes longer to get going with Josh Lupoy and Jaron Kiave Sagapatelli, who I think they could really do well in the first year. And then SMU, I think that's a challenging road environment. Tech's got a very tough road slate, but I can easily see them getting off to a 4-0 start and doing really well to begin the season. And at that point, you're looking at 3-4, and they could sneak some in there. James Franklin's problem was never beating the beatable teams. It was beating, outside of last year, when things really started to go south at Penn State. His problem much more was what could he do against the elite of the elite with similar level of talent, maybe a higher end amount of talent, not by a lot, but by a little bit. That's where his bigger problem was. But I think really the only clear, obvious high-end talent differential between Tech and their opponent this year is Miami.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout. And I think it's important to remember with James Franklin, even if they don't get, by the way, 7.5 wins is a great line for the Hokies.
Yep.
I would agree with the over on that, but that is a really good line. The important thing to remember with James Franklin and just college recruiting in general is it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. If they don't quite live up to the expectations you have for them this season, you gotta understand that there's guys developing, guys who are coming straight out of high school right now that they're recruiting, who will be better maybe 2-3 years down the road. So Hokies fans, if we're not as great as you want this year, don't be too beat up about it. We have a bright future ahead, the brightest it's been in quite a little while in Blacksburg. So I am very excited, very looking forward.
We are coming your way in the fast lane from one of the NASCAR headquarter buildings. There are a handful of them down just outside and in the Charlotte area. We are on our way to the ACC kickoff. We'll have Virginia Tech coverage for you Thursday in the fast lane. And if you want it a little bit earlier, Fastlane, Ed Lane, and VTRN Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube. We'll have the links up there. And Fastlane, Ed Lane, where you listen to podcasts, as we archive all of our content there if you miss any of that live. When we return in the Fast Lane, though, teams that John Manson, Liberty Flames reporter for ASeaofRed.com, does not like. In particular, Liberty Flames fans don't like. You can weigh in, JJ Hendrickson 27, Fastlane Ed Lane on our social media platforms. When we return, we'll come back with more here in the Fast Lane from NASCAR's headquarters, one of them on the VTRN Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Volkswagen. Get ready to fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terryvw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Makadu for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics to Coney Island, Betty Bop, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
Time to share, breaking that ball. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Market Dues.
We'll see you at the dues.
Good to great. It's one of the hardest transitions to make. 801 Raw Bar has pulled it off. Their country boil bags have taken the good seafood and flavors from the Bayou region and brought them to the Hill City for a great seafood dish. You can also build your own seafood plates at 801 Raw Bar, featuring fresh shrimp, crabs, scallops, and fish from the Atlantic region. Step back into the relaxing beach house vibe with different regional seafood twists at 801 Raw Bar on Church Street in downtown Lynchburg.
Are you sick of running your dryer longer just to dry your clothes? It might not be a dying appliance. It might be a clogged up dryer vent. Call Black Goose Chimney Service to find out. Their certified ventilation specialists don't just diagnose chimneys. They also clean dryer vents through the entire ventilation system. Get peace of mind as you're protected from lint clogging your dryer vents, one of the most common causes of house fires. Call Black Goose Chimney Service today and visit blackgoose.net to schedule your dryer vent cleaning.
Hey gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Catch the Fast Lane weekdays 5 to 6 p.m. on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
They are starting to do their previews at aseaofred.com for different opponents, including the 3 games that will define the Liberty Flames this upcoming football season. John Manson covers the Liberty Flames and does a ton of great work for aseaofred.com and is generous enough to join us today here in the Fast Lane. John, first of all, great to be speaking with you. We are glad to be chatting, and we are almost at that particular point. One of those games that's on the list might also qualify as one of the teams that Liberty Flames fans cannot stand the most. I won't tell you exactly who that is, although if you want to spill the beans on the team that is in the early portion of the Flames schedule, that you can. But when you think of teams that Liberty Flames fans cannot stand, and this can start with football and maybe be keyed by football and men's basketball, but extends to other sports, which ones jump out to you the most in the spirit of a discussion that JJ and I had just a moment ago here in the Fast Lane?
Yeah, good to be on with you again. I can answer that in a lot of different ways. I think the first one that kind of comes to mind is JMU in football. But they haven't played, the Flames and Dukes haven't played in other sports, at least not men's and women's basketball. Women's basketball a couple of times, but men's basketball recently. So, it'd be nice if they would extend their series that they've done in football to other sports, most notably on the hardwood. Both Liberty and JMU have had a lot of success in men's basketball in recent seasons, and I think that'd be a really good game for fans and just a good regional opponent and rival for both those teams to have. But another one, a Conference USA foe that I think, rivalry is kind of brewing and starting to be born there is Kennesaw State. The Owls have moved up to Conference USA and have, they won Conference USA in football last year, and they've had success in other sports, including men's basketball. And Liberty and the Owls have had a lot of history, especially in men's basketball. what they did, both playing for a conference championship in the A-Sun, Liberty last year there, and now that success has carried over for both of those teams in Conference USA. And then in football, I mean, we know of the history. I mean, Conference USA, the championships, 2 of the last 3 have gone to either Liberty or Kennesaw State. And then also, Kennesaw getting that huge upset of Liberty a couple years ago when the Flames were still undefeated in regular season play in 19 games, first 19 games under head coach Jamie Chadwell. And the Owls were winless and pulled off one of the more shocking upsets in all of college football, not just in Conference USA. So I think that's one rivalry that's starting to brew and is starting to get up there, and a team that Liberty fans want to beat quite frequently and across all sports. They've also had success in other sports as well, including baseball as well. And we could go up and down the list, but I think Kennesaw State, and there are 2 teams, Liberty and Kennesaw State, and when you're talking about a Conference USA league that's spread so far, from Delaware to New Mexico, Liberty and Kennesaw State are 2 of the more geographically close location schools in the league.
You referenced the geographical part, and you mentioned that as well in the Liberty JMU feud that Flames fans feel toward the Dukes, and I would say vice versa. I think JMU fans consider Liberty to be a rival as well. I know, is there a part of you that applauds the fact that this series has been ongoing, and it appears there have been efforts to keep these matchups on the docket in future years, and what's now been dubbed the Battle of the Blue Ridge, that both of these programs understand the value of this rivalry and creating something in an era where maybe you'll get back to it depending on how college athletics looks in 5 to 10 years, but you don't really have an idea of that just yet. And when fans are left in limbo, they can at least cling to something that, to their credit, JMU and Liberty have done a good job of finding a way to embrace that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes perfect sense for both teams. I mean, you're talking about a Liberty team who, in 2023 was a top-ranked Group of 5 champion in college football, making it to the Fiesta Bowl. And then obviously JMU did the same thing this past year as a Sun Belt champion, making it to the college football playoffs. So, and even years prior to that, both teams have had success. Liberty at the FBS level since moving up in 2019, and JMU even back in their days in the FCS, and now since they've moved to the FBS as well too. So 2 preeminent Group of 5, now Group of 6 teams with the Pac-12 in the country, and they're located about 100 miles away from each other. It makes perfect sense for them to play, and especially as talking about how spread out Conference USA is. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, Sun Belt, there's some, it's more geographically, you're a more geographical type of conference where it's more closely aligned than some of the other conferences are nowadays. But they still got some trips, Louisiana and things like that as well too, Mississippi and others. So it's good to have, some close proximity games for these teams to play. And it's kind of interesting. I think Liberty definitely looks at JMU as a rival and a similar type of opponent. Both schools, their athletic programs are well resourced, well funded, and competing at, like I said, at the top of Group of 5 and Group of 6 now. And I think JMU fans, and again, not obviously not a JMU alum, not somebody that covers JMU, but I think JMU probably looks at Liberty, looks down on the Flames a little bit, thinks that they're better than the Flames, and they've proven it on the gridiron more times than not in the 2 programs' history. And Liberty really needs to win some games in this series. It can start here in just over a month in September to start to show to their Harrisonburg natives that the Flames are for real and to be taken seriously, because I think it's gotten to where some JMU fans probably think that they're better than Liberty in football, and understandably so in what they've done in their past. Specifically at when they're in the FCS, winning national championships and competing, in one of the top conferences at that level in the CAA, and now what they've been able to do in their early years in the FBS.
John Manson, a seaofred.com, covers the Liberty Flames and is stopping by with us today here in the Fast Lane. We're, by the way, at one of the NASCAR headquarters. If you're looking at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, or VTRN Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube and wondering why we've got the racing picture in the background, we were treated by some folks at NASCAR to being able to stop into one of their locations and post up for the show. So we're extremely grateful. Starting fast for the Liberty Flames. You mentioned the JMU Dukes. I'm fortunate. I've been traveling to New York, to North Carolina, places where it's, how shall we say this, easier to find a way to act on some hunches about Liberty's season opener against the JMU Dukes. They're a 6 to 6.5 point underdog. I'm not saying the Flames are going to win that game outright, but that to me screamed like an opportunity for Liberty. And I think Liberty, maybe they lose the game. Maybe they lose the game by 7 points or more. But considering, are people forgetting that this is not the same JMU team that defeated Liberty last year, went undefeated in the regular season, and made it to the college football playoff? They are literally starting entirely from scratch, basically, with a new coaching staff, a new group of players. And for the Flames, that makes it more imperative that they have a chance to beat the Dukes early and get this 2026 season off on the right foot.
Yeah, I mean, if there was ever a time you'd want to play JMU this season, it would be in week one. They got a brand new coaching staff and a ton of new players, a host of new players. Obviously coming off a very good season last year, like I said, made it to the CFP and won the Sun Belt. So, and that's going to be their home opener. So they're going to be celebrating some of the success they had last year. But like you said, and like I kind of referenced is, as a new head coach, Billy Napier takes over. You don't know how good this JMU team's going to be. I know they're a pick to repeat in the Sun Belt in their media days that came out earlier this week, but you really don't know. And we talked about this earlier in the summer. Is it's so hard to try to make guesstimates at what these college football teams are going to be, especially in the group of six level, is because they have so much turnover. I mean, you can say the same thing for Liberty. I mean, Liberty's brought in 40% of its roster is going to be brand new. So a lot of new faces, especially on the defensive side of the ball in the secondary, where you might have an entirely new look defensive secondary for the Flames starting in week one. So a group that has never started the game. Nobody in that group has started a game at Liberty. Perhaps could be in week one. So a lot of question marks for the Flames too. Now you are in the fourth year of Coach Chadwell, and you like to think there's some continuity, but there's also a lot of new faces on the coaching staff as well too for Liberty. So and for JMU, they've got a couple of members of their new staff that was at Liberty. Josh Lynam was Liberty's linebacker coach last year. Now he's over at JMU, and also a former assistant coach under Hugh Freeze has also joined the staff there. So they're familiar with Liberty. They're going to be wanting to beat the Flames and get off to a good start. It's a game that you love to have, and you love to have it week one, something to look forward to all summer, and both give both fan bases something to brag about. Whoever it is that wins the game, and for Liberty, coming off the 4-8 season last year, you mentioned getting off to a fast start, and that's something that if you're able to pull off that win, pull off that upset in week one, it can really set the table for you to bounce back to what you were back in 2023 and even before that.
John Manson from AseaofRed.com is stopping by with us today in the Fast Lane. John, I always like to just monitor who schools are bringing to their conference media days. Of course, we're on our way to Charlotte for the ACC football kickoff. We'll have coverage Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the Fast Lane. And for those that want it live, VTRN Sports and Fast Lane, Ed Lane on Facebook Live and YouTube. We'll have it during the Fast Lane, 5 to 6 p.m. on the VTRN Sports app and Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts. And I know, by the way, y'all be cranking up your new Sea of Red podcast, I'm sure, coming up as these weeks get closer. But Jamie Chadwell obviously going to Conference USA Media Days for the Flames. He's joined by tight end Caleb Ryan and linebacker Darrell Farrar. No quarterback present, first of all, in that. Are you surprised at all, given that a lot of people think it's Deshaun Purdy, but it seems like this coaching staff does not want to give away the quarterback competition, and they're not ready to announce somebody just yet?
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. I didn't expect a quarterback, and it's really, as you go through, who would you choose for the Flames? I mean, not a quarterback. not a running back, because the entire running back room has been completely remade with the exception of Jalen Coleman, who had a solid year as a true freshman last year, but probably not somebody you want to throw into that limelight so early on. And same thing at the receiver room. Jamari Person, you could probably make a case for him, but Caleb Ryan's an interesting selection. Tight end, veteran, a guy who started his career as a walk-on and, really became, pretty much a starter. He split time last year with Austin Henderson at tight end and Jacob Jenkins as well too, but, was playing arguably starters snaps last year at tight end, and now he's stepping into a tight end room that's got a lot of new faces alongside him. So you would expect him to be a veteran and a leader in that room and on the offensive side of the ball. And Darrell Farrar is Liberty's top returning leading tackler from a season ago, and a linebacker who transferred in a year ago and has had a lot of success his first year and is now looking to take that next step, be an all-conference type. Take that next step and be an all-conference type of performer for the Flames. But, Ed, it's something similar, something I had similar thoughts recently thinking about Liberty's representatives. It used to be that, I think it's changed a lot. You'd let me know your thoughts on it, especially when you cover other conferences and other teams as well, too. How, you used to be able to look forward to who was going to be at these conference media days and it was household names, in days gone by, a Rashad Jennings, Mike Brown, Buckshot Calvert or AGG or whoever the case may be. Some of these guys that are household names and some of the all-time greats at previous schools. But now a lot of times it's guys that either you don't know because they haven't played much, or it's you're more, not to say role players, but guys that aren't as household or as familiar names as you've seen in years past. At least that's what we've seen out of Liberty here in recent years. I don't know if that's something you're seeing kind of becoming more of a trend across college football. And I think that's due in large part to the transfer portal and these rosters turning over so much year to year.
I think it's a great point, John, about just what you've got right now with the nature of the transfer portal. The categories I'd put most of the players in terms of when they get to different locations, it's a returning player, which probably means even the best returning players, unless you're at like an elite big spender program, Miami in the ACC, Georgia, Texas, someone like that. For the most part, even if you're a high-end player, you may just transfer from one roster to the next year. So that thins out the potential candidate pool. It's almost like either you've got, your solid role players that are returning from the prior year and maybe ready to pop, maybe not, but you know what they are, or it's a quarterback that you clearly are confident is going to be your guy, even if they came in from the transfer portal. And, I think Liberty is honestly just a reflection of that. They're not clear. I think most people think Deshaun Purdy is probably going to be the guy, but they're not ready to make that announcement yet. And I get why. So they're going with two more well-established players that, if nothing else, they could set the tone. They're good leaders. They're the type of people that represent your program, even if by the end of the year you may not be going, those are the most talented players.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, for Liberty, it's also interesting because Aaron Fenimore went last year as a sophomore, and he's obviously a captain and returning team leader. But I guess they didn't want to take him 3 straight years in a row, so they had to mix it up on the offensive side of the ball and not go with their, what would this be? I think his 3rd year starting at center and 4th year in the program, guy that's been with Coach Chadwell since day one. I mean, he was committed to Liberty when Chadwell, or committed to Chadwell when Chadwell was at Coastal Carolina as a high school senior, and then flipped that commitment after Chadwell left Coastal, obviously, and came to Liberty and has been there with Liberty and Chadwell ever since. And has grown into not just a team leader, but a captain and an all-conference type performer. And, Liberty's really going to have to lean on that offensive line a lot here, especially early in the season where they return, 4 starters, including Fenimore, and also bring in a few high-level transfers that looks like behind offensive line coach Bill Durkin, that might be the strength of this Liberty offense, at least to begin the season. And we'll see as they try to figure out, who those skill position players are, quarterback, running back, and also at receiver.
John Manson with us here in the Fast Lane. John, we'll wrap it up on this. Ben Blair, second round pick from Tampa Bay. Tanner Marsh, 9th round from the A's. Flames had a couple more players drafted in the Major League Baseball draft. All told, is that a pretty good haul from a Flames team that managed to make the Conference USA tournament final? They managed to make the college baseball, the NCAA baseball tournament this year, and really turn in a pretty impressive performance in year 2 of Bradley LaCroix.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a tremendous, feather in the cap or cherry on top of the season that Coach LaCroix had in his second year. And you mentioned, winning or tying the program record for wins in a single season and making it to a regional final, which is as far as Liberty Baseball's programs ever made it. And then you add to that 4 drafted players in the MLB draft. Highlighted by Ben Blair, the second highest draft pick in program history, checking in at number 49 in the second round. And, just one spot behind number 48, which is the highest ever, Sid Bream, when he got drafted back in the 80s. So you love it for Ben Blair. I mean, this is a local kid who grew up right down the road in Gretna and decided to play for his hometown team, grew up a Liberty fan and was able to play there and had a stellar career starting as a true freshman, as a key reliever for the Flames, then moved into the weekend rotation each of his last 2 years and was obviously one of the top pitchers in the entire country this past year. And he didn't have to go into the portal. He stayed home and, was true to his hometown team, even through the coaching change where Liberty went from Scott Jackson, who recruited Blair originally, and stayed with Liberty through the coaching change with LaCroix coming in and now getting picked in the second round. You can go and look at his that draft value, what he's likely to be signing for as a rookie, and you love it for him and for this Liberty program, and really hope Blair going to the Tampa Bay Rays, he's able to quickly make his way up the ranks and be on a MLB roster here before you know it, and maybe even playing down in Durham. I know that's their one of their affiliates is down in Durham, so maybe we can see Blair here near to Lynchburg.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to see that. If you could see him in the minors on his way up to the big leagues and continuing to be exposed to people in a great way with what he's been able to do. Ben Blair and Tanner Marsh going to the other side of the country with the A's. But somebody, you don't have to go to the other side of the country to consume his insight, or you can if you're on the other side of the country. But he's everywhere at seaofred.com. John Manson with us in the Fast Lane. John, great to be speaking with you. Conference USA Media Days are next week. Pretty soon we'll be seeing each other regularly over at the Liberty Flames Sports Complex over at Williams Stadium. It's about here, and the end of the year is basically here as well.
Yeah, we just about made it through the dog days of summer, but hope you've been able to enjoy some summertime, and we'll talk to you soon.
We look forward to it as well. John Manson from seaofred.com with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return, we are going to do our best to blitz through the Fast Five at 5-ish after this.
Big transitions feel like big hurdles. That's why Central Virginia Counseling has 2 dynamic 6-week summer groups for rising 6th and 9th graders packed with essential life skills. Each week targets a new skill for success, tools like organization, time management, task initiation, anxiety reduction techniques, and skills for making friends and communicating well. Through peer connection and expert guidance, students will gain tools to feel capable, connected, and ready for day one. Visit us on Timberlake Road or Wigington Road in Lynchburg, or at centralvirginiacounseling.com to learn more.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real tech knowledge so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590. We're smart support with real savings.
End zone, light them up, touchdown Liberty.
The atmosphere at a game is amazing. It is like family.
I've been a season ticket holder for 14 seasons. The atmosphere is electric.
On the near sideline.
It's an experience. You look forward to every week.
I like the pageantry, the band.
The pride of knowing that this is our university.
2026 Flames football season tickets are on sale now. Get yours at lufootball.com.
Hey, Hokie fans! Each offseason, you don't see or hear much. So let TechSideline.com be your eyes and ears for what's really going on with the Virginia Tech Hokies. From basketball roster and staff construction to the buildup of the James Franklin era, we take you behind the scenes of the Hokies. Get exclusive recruiting deep dives, expert roster analysis, and insider updates you won't find anywhere else. Stay ahead of the game this upcoming offseason. Subscribe to TechSideline.com for $12 a month or $120 per year. TechSideline.com. All Hokies, all the time, period.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
How fast can we go through the Fast Five at 5-ish? Let's find out right now.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
So where I'm not surprised for NASCAR is that the CW announced they had over 1 million viewers for Saturday's double overtime race restart in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race down in Atlanta. It's the most watched summer race in Atlanta in 5 years, but it's not surprising on that level. It's not surprising because the CW continues to churn out about 1 to 1.5 million viewers per race. It's not quite the level of Cup, but clearly NASCAR and the CW have hit a home run on a partnership of that scale and magnitude, bringing that level of viewership consistently for what is NASCAR's version of AAA. Meanwhile,
number 4.
The other side of it, I will confess, to get my usher on, I am surprised that 1.5 million people stuck around for the rain-impacted Cup race at Atlanta this past Sunday night / Monday morning. I know they were on pace for 2.5 million, so it dropped by about 1 mil, but I'm surprised that it wasn't worse than that. First of all, it's a testament to the fact that the quality of racing was fantastic. More on that in just a second. But also the fact that people knew that they were willing to stick around this long. You know, if nothing else, there's clearly a core base of people that will stick with NASCAR, and you cannot call them, pun intended here, fair weather fans. Meanwhile,
number 3.
The race also was one of the highest rating races on Jeff Gluck's infamous poll for theathletic.com of was it a good race. Over 90% of people said that it was. I actually voted no because I didn't like the timing of it. It's not for the quality of action. It's quality-wise. You could argue it or Kansas are some of the best racing action we've seen all year in the Cup Series. I just voted no out of principle for the timing of it. But if you're going on the quality of racing itself, it's really hard to disagree with that. Meanwhile,
number 2.
All right, look, we give a lot of criticism at times when it's warranted. And this one to former Virginia Cavalier edge, Charles Snowden, who has been suspended by the NFL for the first 3 games of this season because of a DUI violation. We say this all the time, not just because our friends at Trost Law remind us about this, that we don't want to see you get behind the wheel if you're impaired when you could just use a rideshare service. We don't want people to have to call 777 hurt and visit trostlaw.com because of those reasons. But come on, man, you're in the NFL. I know you bounced from the Raiders to the Cowboys and other spots, and Charles Snowden is not the most highly sought after player, but you've got to exercise better discretion than this. If it is the type of decision you're making, I understand it gets clouded when you put substances into your body, but have a plan ahead of time. When you have that much money, I don't care if it's Uber Prime rates or Lyft Prime rates or whatever the rideshare service is where they charge extra. $100 beats $11,000 or whatever the costs are for a DUI, and that doesn't include the potential damage you could cause somebody else. Meanwhile,
number 1.
Virginia Tech has made a big hiring move in their fundraising department is Brad Bell. No, not the head pastor of Impact Church. He is still at Impact Church. We're talking about a different Brad Bell has been named as the executive director of the Hokie Club as well as the executive director of advancement for Hokies athletics. First of all, blending those two roles is a big thing. It's a good thing and it's necessary. Second of all, he's got experience at Georgia in that capacity. I know Georgia's got more scale, but understanding the concept of scale is a big thing. And third of all, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention that's one of the questions we'll be asking of Virginia Tech Athletic Director Brian White when we connect with him Thursday at the ACC kickoff. Meanwhile, that does it for us today in the Fast Lane. A big shout out to the folks at NASCAR for letting us show today. We're in Charlotte tomorrow through Friday for the ACC kickoff.